We've got Henry Hill with us from Conservative Home. Let's move to this story, Henry. The number of Sharia courts, sometimes known as councils, in Britain has grown. There's 85 of them. These things began in 1982, with Britain being described as the Sharia Western capital. Let's have a little listen to the Deputy Leader of Reform UK. This is Richard Tice speaking back at his spring conference on this very issue.
We actually need to legislate that we do not want and allow any Sharia law in the United Kingdom anywhere. That's not who we are. It's not our gig. If that's your gig, there are plenty of other places where you can go and enjoy that. That's absolutely fine. That's freedom of choice. But this is the point. This is where we're at now, is that our democracy is being attacked.
So Richard Tice speaking on this issue, Henry. I mean, it depends how one interprets what a Sharia court is. Often colloquially referred to as kind of family courts. They don't do murder trials or, you know, anything criminal of that nature. They don't have any legal capacity. But there is a sense that there is a kind of a bit of a sort of parallel system going on in this one area.
Yeah, it's a fascinating read because it's an insight into what social norms are in certain communities that are using these things. You know, the Mail reporting, I think it was, that had there is a drop-down list on the apps provided by one of these Sharia courts for you to let them know how many wives you have.
Yes.
Which is, you know, fairly eye-opening. I don't think polygamy has been illegal in the UK.
That's completely illegal, right? I mean, so how would that even be all right?
I can't even think when polygamy was legal in the UK, actually, unless, you know, maybe they're helpfully providing things if you happen to have a marriage overseas in another jurisdiction. But
Possibly.
It's, you know, something worth looking at, and you know, the sort of baked-in assumptions about drawing up wills. Apparently there's a service that draws up wills and automatically assigns daughters half whatever the sons are getting.
Yes.
Now, that is, on the one hand, you know, we don't have a law on wills in this country. We're not medieval aristocrats, right?
Yeah.
You can, if you want, leave your children whatever random combination of your stuff that you like. But
True.
it is an insight, I think, into what we might call a failure, what we might consider a failure of integration, right? And one of the sort of tensions in British immigration policy has always been, on the one hand, we don't have the kind of consistent violence that you see in places like France. We don't have the level of tension between certain communities in the state. But on the other hand, we don't set nearly as high a bar as France for integration into British culture.
Sure.
So you could say, on the one hand, and it often is presented as, that Britain is an integration success story, or you could, looking at some of this, say, actually, we're just not trying all that hard, right? France has set a high bar and has struggled to hit it, whereas we sort of don't really press on this stuff and allow this stuff to grow.
Yeah. Let's go to this story. Turkish crime boss jailed for 16 years for heroin offences, been allowed to stay in the UK. You're ahead of me here, everybody. On human rights grounds, judges ruled deporting him would breach his right to a family life despite his extramarital affair in Turkey. I mean, you can't make this. This ticks every box of insanity, it seems to me.
Yeah, I mean, right to family life is one of the most abused, I think, when you can rights in the human European Convention. When you think about, you know, when this was originally drawn up after the horrors of World War II, half of Europe was governed by totalitarian systems of government. This was about protecting something very basic. Yep. But now it's a really tenuous link by which somebody who has no right to be in this country, who is not a citizen, we've not incurred any, you know, we don't have the obligations to him that we would of a citizen, but if they've acquired something that can nebulously be considered a family, well, then that's it. All of a sudden, they have a right to stay in the UK forever at our expense. If they are not employed or if they're in prison, at the taxpayer's expense. It's something that some government is going to have to do something about. Now, you could, right? The government could simply, think what we did with prisoner votes. The government can legislate to fix this. But is Keir Starmer going to do it? I don't think so.
Yeah, the UN Refugee Agency supported his claim, despite the Home Office saying this man was a danger to the community. I mean, who the hell are the UN Refugee Agency? Get in the bin. You've got no right, or should have no right, in these kind of areas. Nobody will take you seriously, or if they ever have done, of course. Just a final one to finish on. We touched on this a little bit yesterday, but it's accelerating, Henry. This is the song that has come out that isn't, I think we can fairly reasonably say, painting Keir Starmer in the greatest of lights. It's the Christmas song that he would like to see not played, and the BBC apparently support that. They're under pressure from Brits to play it, slating Starmer. Let's have a listen.
It'll be freezing this Christmas while our money goes abroad. It'll be freezing this Christmas. Rachel Reeves is a fraud. It'll be cold, so cold, without fuel at home this Christmas.
There it is, Keir Starmer and the Granny Harmers, Henry. I know you've got your copy. You've got a vinyl version, I hear. But should the BBC be playing? I mean, of course they should play it.
I mean, generally speaking, sure. I think I'm sympathetic to DJs because, frankly, however much we might sympathise with the cause, if you listen to that, it doesn't scan, right? It's not the world's most polished if you're running a DD radio show. But ultimately, the BBC is publicly owned, and so if there is huge public demand for this and it is topping the download charts, so there clearly is, then I think that at least the popular radio shows, I'm not going to suggest that, that Radio 4 has to play it anytime soon. But, the popular radio channels should be reflecting that public mood, at least to have some kind of discussion about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the way it works, isn't it? Even though, I mean, I understand there is a political consideration, but this is the music. It's not BBC News that we're asking. Nobody is suggesting that Sophie Rayworth, before she reads the headline, says, have a listen to this little beauty. I mean, that would be a bit weird. However, if they're, I mean, this will be, I can imagine if I got news for you, we'll probably play a clip of it and stuff, Henry.
Right, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm really in love with your idea for BBC News. Definitely something for the next licence fee review. Yeah. But yeah, if the whole point of the licence fee, the whole defence of all of this stuff is that you're supposed to be in touch, right? You're supposed to be giving people, you're collecting stuff. If you have something that is at the top of the download charts, even if I think it's not particularly good, whatever the message, you should play it at least a few times. Otherwise, you've just got this huge revealed gulf between the listening preferences of the British public and the entire output of the BBC.
Oh, Henry, on that point, your line just broke up, but we got the whole gist of it. And I mentioned this yesterday when I was on TalkSport a load of years ago. We recorded a World Cup song, Come On England. It was taken to the tune of Come On Eileen, the Dexys Midnight Runners track. And it was kind of, I want to say cheap and cheerful, but the guys behind it, really put some work into it. They got all the TalkSport presenters. We sang it, entered the charts, got to number 2 in the charts. We ended up on top of the pops. Had to go down to the BBC to record a video, much to the annoyance of the BBC. It's like, hang on, who are these commercial boys on our lawn, literally outside the BBC, making a video to be inserted into the number 2 slot in the charts? I think they would rather that. And it wasn't the official World Cup song. The official World Cup song did nothing for that particular tournament. This one did, became a bit of an anthem and a bit of fun as well.